Wait, isn't that your poor ex-wife? I thought she was barren. How did she have twins? You know, sometimes life has a funny way of coming full circle. Sometimes the person who breaks you becomes the very reason you discover just how strong you really are. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I went from being the woman who gave everything to a man who gave me nothing to becoming the woman who walked into his wedding with twins on my hip and dignity in my heart. Before I continue, I want you to do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop your country in the comments. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Thank you. But let me start from the beginning, because every ending needs its proper beginning. I was 23 when I married Marcus. 23 and so full of hope it practically radiated from my skin. I believed in the fairy tale, you know. That marriage was this sacred thing where two people built something beautiful together. Marcus was handsome in that way that makes your girlfriends jealous and your mama nervous. 6 feet 2 inches tall, rugged cowboy looks, smile that could charm the paint off barn walls. When he proposed to me outside that little chapel in Austin where we first met, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. The first red flag should have been how he treated me when we couldn't get pregnant right away. Month after month I'd take those tests, hoping and praying for 2 little lines. Month after month, nothing. And Marcus made sure I knew whose fault he thought it was. "My boy's strong," he'd say, gesturing toward Tommy's pictures on our mantel. "I already got proof I can make babies, so what's wrong with you?" What's wrong with you? Those 4 words became the soundtrack to my marriage. So I went alone to fertility clinics, month after month, appointment after appointment, test after test. I let them poke me and prod me and examine every inch of my reproductive system. And you know what? All those tests showed that I was perfectly, completely, 100% fertile and healthy. My eggs were good. My tubes were clear. My hormone levels were textbook perfect. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me. But Marcus didn't want to hear that. "Ain't no issue with me," he'd snap. I got proof walking around calling me daddy. The breaking point came when Marcus needed money for his business opportunity. I had been saving $15,000 over the years, money for a house someday, for our future. When Marcus found out about that money, his eyes lit up with hunger. "I got an opportunity, Sarah. My buddy Jake needs a partner for his auto repair shop. This could be our way out." I should have said no. Every instinct screamed at me to say no. But Marcus was looking at me with something that almost looked like love, talking to me like I was his partner instead of his problem. "How much does he need?" I heard myself asking. "All of it. The whole 15,000. Once the business takes off, we'll make that money back in no time. And maybe once I'm not stressed about money, we can really focus on starting our family." That night, I gave him everything. I emptied my savings account and handed him every penny, and Marcus held me close and whispered promises about how everything was going to change. I recorded him that night on my phone. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me knew I needed to protect myself. Whatever the reason, I'm grateful for that recording now. The auto repair business did take off. Within 6 months, Marcus was making more money than he'd ever made. But success didn't make him treat me better. It made him worse. He started staying out later, dressing better, smelling like cologne I didn't buy him. The end came on a Thursday. I came home early to surprise him with dinner and heard voices from inside our house, Marcus's voice and Jessica's, his ex-girlfriend and Tommy's mother. "She's so pathetic," Jessica was saying. "Still playing house like y'all actually have a real marriage." "I can't keep doing this much longer," Marcus replied. "I'm making good money now. I don't need her anymore. So, just divorce her. She might try to come for the business. Technically, she did help me get started." "How much could she have possibly helped?" Marcus laughed, and the sound cut through me like a blade. "She gave me $15,000 to get the business started, cleaned out her whole savings account. That woman's so desperate for me to love her, she'd probably give me her kidneys if I asked nice enough." They both laughed at my desperation, my love, my sacrifice. 3 days later, he asked for a divorce. Just tossed papers on the kitchen table while I was washing dishes. "Sign these. I want out, Sarah. This isn't working. We don't have kids. We barely talk anymore. And honestly, I just don't love you like that anymore." Within a month, Jessica and Tommy were moving into our house. Within 3 months, I was loading everything I owned into my Honda Civic and driving away with nothing. At 29, I was starting over from absolute zero. The only place I had to go was back home to Dallas to live with my mama, who was sick with diabetes and high blood pressure. She had owned a small cafe once, but when she got sick, she couldn't keep up with running it. The place had been closed for 2 years when I moved back home. That's when I first noticed David. He was documenting the neighborhood's revitalization efforts and kept asking about filming the old cafe. "I know it's closed," he said, "but there's something beautiful about the bones of this place. I can see the love that went into it." It took me 3 months to tell him what had happened. When I finally shared my story about Marcus, David got angry, not at me but for me. "That man is a fool," he said, "and someday he's going to realize what he gave up." "I gave him everything," I whispered. "My money, my love, my life, everything. And it wasn't enough." "It wasn't about you not being enough. It was about him not being man enough to recognize what he had." Slowly, I started to rebuild. I began looking at Mama's old cafe with new eyes. What if we turned it into something different? Healthy, affordable meals for busy people. Fresh salads and grain bowls, smoothies and cold-pressed juices. I got a job at a grocery store, working early morning shifts, saving every penny. In the evenings, I experimented in Mama's kitchen, testing recipes and learning about nutrition. David kept filming everything: my early morning market trips, my late-night prep sessions, my failures and victories. He never made me feel like I had to perform for the camera. It took 2 years to save enough money to renovate the cafe. I learned to do most of the work myself, watching YouTube tutorials on tiling and painting and installing fixtures. I called it Nourish, because Mama had always believed that food should nourish your soul, not just fill your stomach. We opened on a Tuesday in March, and by noon, we had a line out the door. Throughout all of this, David kept asking me out, and I kept saying I wasn't ready. "I'm still healing," I'd tell him. "I need to focus on building something for myself before I can build anything with someone else." "I'm not going anywhere," he said every time. "I'll be here when you're ready." After 2 years of success with Nourish, I finally said yes to David. Our first date felt like coming home in a way that my marriage to Marcus never had. "I have a confession," he said over dessert. "I've been in love with you for 2 years." "I know," I said, "and I think I'm ready to love you back." We married at the courthouse on a Thursday, with just our parents as witnesses. It was nothing like my elaborate first wedding, but it was perfect because it was real. 3 months after our wedding, 2 incredible things happened. First, David convinced me to let him post videos about Nourish. The first video got 1,000 views, then 5,000, then 50,000. Orders started pouring in nationwide. After years of trying with Marcus, after being blamed for our inability to conceive, my body had not only gotten pregnant, but created 2 lives at once. The irony wasn't lost on me. With the right partner, with a man who truly loved me, everything was possible. Emma and Grace came into the world healthy and strong, and holding them for the first time, I felt a completion I never thought possible. For 2 years, we lived quietly but abundantly. Nourish products were now in grocery stores across the Southwest. We bought a beautiful house and made sure Mama had everything she needed. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Mama answered her phone during Sunday family dinner. Her face changed as she listened, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. "Hold on," she said, covering the receiver. "Sarah, baby, you need to come here. It's Marcus." The world tilted sideways. I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in years. "He's getting married," Mama said after hanging up, "to Jessica, and he wants to invite you to the wedding." The mockery was unmistakable. This wasn't an invitation, it was a setup. Marcus wanted me to show up desperate and defeated, a cautionary tale to make his new bride feel better about herself. But there was something about that calculated cruelty that lit a fire in me. He thought I was still that broken woman he had discarded. He had no idea who I had become. "I want to go," I said finally. "You sure about that?" David asked. "I'm sure, and we're all going." We flew to Austin and stayed at the Four Seasons. The girls were excited about their first airplane ride. chattering about the clouds and tiny cars below. I wore a deep royal blue dress that showed off my confidence. David looked like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. The girls were in matching yellow dresses that made them look like tiny sunflowers. The wedding was at an elegant downtown hotel. As we walked into the cocktail hour, heads began to turn. People noticed our beautiful family, the confident woman with two identical little girls and a handsome man who looked at her like she hung the moon. I saw the exact moment Marcus spotted me. He was laughing at something someone said, confidence radiating from every pore until he saw me. Then that smile froze on his face. "Sarah." His voice was uncertain. "Hello, Marcus. Thank you for the invitation." He stared, trying to reconcile the woman in front of him with the broken woman who had left Austin years ago. "You look different." His eyes moved to David, taking in the expensive suit and confident posture. "And you are?" "David, Sarah's husband." Then his eyes dropped to the girls. "Twins," he said quietly. I watched him process this. The same woman he had blamed for infertility had gone on to have two healthy children within years of their divorce. Dinner was elegant, and our table mates were lovely. No one seemed to know who I was, which allowed me to relax and enjoy the evening. Then came the speeches. Marcus went first, talking about how he used to think he knew what love was, but that real love was about finding someone who challenges you to be better. The implication was clear. What we had wasn't real love, because I hadn't made him better. Then Jessica spoke. She started sweetly, but then turned sharp. Some women love with conditions, but when times get tough, they check out. Marcus's first wife was with him for 6 years, and in all that time, she never gave him the one thing that really mattered: a child. She was looking directly at me now. But me, I gave Marcus 2 beautiful children. I proved that with the right woman, he could build the family he always wanted. The word fruitfully hit like a slap. She was calling me Barren in front of a room full of people. I felt David squeeze my hand as I realized what needed to happen next. When the DJ asked if anyone else wanted to share words with the happy couple, I stood up. "Excuse me. Sarah Roberts, Marcus's ex-wife." The collective intake of breath was audible. I made my way to the microphone and looked out at all the faces staring back at me. "First, I want to thank Marcus and Jessica for inviting me. Jessica, you look absolutely beautiful. Marcus is lucky to have found someone who loves him so completely." I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I've been listening to the speeches about love and partnership, and it's brought back memories from my own marriage to Marcus. 6 years of me believing that love meant sacrifice, including the $15,000 that started the auto repair business that paid for this beautiful wedding. I held up the phone. "I have something I'd like to share. A recording from the night I gave Marcus everything I had." Marcus was on his feet. "Sarah, don't—" But I was already playing it. Marcus's voice filled the ballroom. "I love you so much, baby. You're investing in us, in our future. I'm going to make this worth it, I promise. Us. Our future." That's what he promised me the night I gave him my life savings. A murmur ran through the crowd. But Jessica is right about one thing. I never gave Marcus a child during our 6 years of marriage. And do you know why? I pulled out medical records. These show I am completely, perfectly fertile and healthy. Marcus refused to get tested, blamed me for 6 years for our inability to conceive. The room was silent now, so I did what any desperate woman would do. I secretly had Tommy tested. I gestured toward the children's table. DNA doesn't lie. Tommy is not Marcus's biological child. Never was. The gasp was audible. Marcus was completely white. But that's not all. I also had Marcus tested without his knowledge. Marcus has a genetic condition that makes him completely infertile. He cannot and will never be able to father children naturally. I held up test results, which means that Riley, your beautiful daughter, isn't his child either. Jessica's champagne glass shattered on the floor. Marcus built his entire identity around being a man who could create life, but it was all a lie. He blamed me for 6 years for something that was never my fault. I walked closer to the stunned couple. I'm not telling you this to hurt you, Jessica. You deserve the truth. You deserve to know that the man you just married has been lying about one of the most fundamental aspects of your relationship. I turned back to address the room. But here's the beautiful part of this story. After Marcus divorced me, I met a real man. A man who saw my worth, who valued my heart. David was standing now with our daughters in his arms. And with that real man, I got pregnant immediately. Not only pregnant, but pregnant with twins, living proof that there was never anything wrong with me. I gestured toward my family. Emma and Grace, born to parents who love each other authentically, who built a business together that now employs over 300 people and serves families across the country. Recognition dawned on some faces, people who knew Nourish. Marcus thought he was inviting his poor, broken ex-wife to humiliate her. Instead, he gave me the opportunity to show everyone exactly who he really is. A man who built his fortune on his ex-wife's savings, who blamed that same ex-wife for his own medical issue, who has been lying to you about your own children's paternity. I picked up my purse to leave. My revenge wasn't coming here to destroy Marcus's wedding. My revenge was living well. My revenge was building something beautiful from the ashes of what he destroyed. I started walking toward the exit. Oh, and one more thing. That $15,000, consider it the best investment I ever made. It brought me the most valuable lesson of my life. I paused at the doors. The lesson that sometimes the most beautiful thing that can happen to you is being left by someone who doesn't deserve you. Back in our hotel suite, as the girls watched Disney movies in their pajamas, David asked how I felt. Free, I said. Completely, totally free. My phone buzzed with messages. The video of my speech was going viral, but more importantly, thousands of women reached out to share their own stories. You gave me the courage to leave, one wrote. Your story helped me realize I'm not crazy, wrote another. We created Nourish Your Soul, a platform for women supporting each other through difficult transitions. It became a comprehensive resource for rebuilding lives. Marcus tried to sue me for defamation, but the truth is, a complete defense. His lawsuit was dismissed. His marriage to Jessica didn't last. The business struggled when word spread about his character. I didn't take pleasure in his downfall. He had become irrelevant to my story, a character from an earlier chapter I had closed and moved on from. What I would tell her now. If I could talk to that 23-year-old woman who was so excited to marry Marcus, here's what I would tell her. Your worth is not determined by how much someone else is willing to love you. Your value doesn't increase or decrease based on whether you can give a man children or make him happy. You are not responsible for fixing broken men. You cannot sacrifice yourself into a healthy relationship. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Financial independence isn't just nice to have, it's essential. Never give someone else complete control over your security or your future. Most importantly, you are already enough exactly as you are. You don't need to be completed by someone else. You are worthy of love and respect simply because you exist. The right person won't make you feel like you need to earn their love. They will see your worth immediately and treat it as precious. And if you never find that person, you will still be complete. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Once you learn to love and value yourself, that's when everything else falls into place. That broken woman who left Austin with nothing? She was already brilliant. She just needed the right circumstances to shine. Sometimes the most beautiful thing that can happen to you is being left by someone who doesn't deserve you. Because that's when you discover you never needed them in the first place. You were always enough, you were always worthy, you were always brilliant. You just needed to learn to see it for yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found it helpful or inspiring, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories like this one, and drop a comment letting me know what resonated with you. I read every single one. Until next time, remember, you are brilliant, you are worthy, and you are enough.